hope you were with us last week. We were demonstrating and illustrating the process of financial planning. My guests are Don and Paul Zoch, who are partners in Zoch & Zoch, a professional financial planning firm in Fairview, New Jersey. We have an anonymous guest with us. We're protecting his anonymity. He's a client of mine. For purposes of anonymity, we're calling him George, and he's a professional man, a resident of northern New Jersey. That's all I'm going to tell you about him. Now, fellas, let's get right back into it. On segment one, just for the benefit of those people who weren't with us last week, you, in effect, were trying to extract data about George to find out what he has and his assets so that you could develop a financial plan. The last question that you threw at him related to cash flow. So going right back into that question, Don, I believe that was your question. Let's pick it up.
George, getting back to last week, we've established that your practice is grossing $150,000. Your net taxable income was $87,000. We know you're in a 48% tax bracket. But I'd like to know, out of those net dollars in your pocket, what is your cash flow situation? How much is it costing you to live? Or conversely, out of the $87,000, how much did you save last year or invest?
It's hard to answer without preparation, and I'm not prepared.
If you need just to roundball it.
It's just that cash flow, fortunately, is never a long-term problem. I'm able to pay my bills promptly. What surplus I have permits us to go away on vacations, and we're quite generous with that. I own a boat, and I use it quite extensively. And whatever extra money we have, we put in a CMA with Phil.
Oh, okay, which could amount to maybe a few hundred a month, or?
Precisely that, precisely that.
Oh, okay. So effectively, your lifestyle is certainly maybe you would want to maintain an income of $85,000 adjusted to inflation?
Oh, no. It could be. As time goes on, I'm sure we're going to even be more conservative. I won't be running a boat, and we won't be taking these vacations as extensively as they were. I don't think so. I'm sure we can get along with much
what if we can quantify that number so we can personalize this for yours? And I know you need to pull it out of a hat.
All right. Say 3/4 to a hat.
Okay.
I think would be a reasonable.
So somewhere in the vicinity of $50,000 you can get by on.
I'm sure.
And you're comfortable on that basis?
So quickly like this, I would have to say yes.
Oh, okay.
Based on the limited time we have, George, what I'd like to do is just to see if we could identify now certain goals and objectives, how we see it, and if you could give us your feedback so we could identify it, so we could go to the next step. What is the financial planning process? How are we going to plan from here potential solutions to long-term situations?
Of course.
Okay. Obviously, how I see it, number one, is a tax problem. Let me tell you what I mean by that. In 1983, approximately 27,000 went out to pay federal income tax. If you take in Social Security, state, I would say 25 to 30% of your gross income, 25 to 30% of your gross income went out to pay taxes.
Right.
To us, that represents a big leak. You're also in the position of your own business. You're generating good income. There's a lot of planning that could go in there. We would have to understand your business just as well as you understand it, if not better, from a financial standpoint, before we could get into in-depth analysis there. Time doesn't permit it. Tax problem. Number two, a potential retirement. Even though the feedback you gave us says, Paul, I probably won't retire in 62, 65, 68, God willing, health willing, economic conditions willing, I'll probably be involved in the business to some certain capacity. What we would like to do as financial planners, do a what if. What if Phil wanted to go out at age 62? What if, I'm sorry, Phil. See, we finally brought you in. What if George wanted to go at 62? What if George wanted to go out at 65? Let's base it on $4,000 a monthly income or $48,000 a year. Right. You have it today. Where at age 62 would it come in from? Well, we know your Keogh will throw off certain, the Navy pension will throw off certain income, your assets throw off certain income, and the Keogh. That's what we would like to factor in with your two biggest problems, taxation, but number two, inflation. Yes, your lifestyle may lower, but you may not be doing as much traveling, but the biggest concern we found out at that time, Phil, is medical costs. How long am I going to live? Potential nursing homes. And we found out that what it costs a person to live today at retirement, usually about 80% of that figure holds true, statistically. So we may just want to use that for today, just to earmark it.
Very good.
So based on taxation and retirement, I think those are the two areas we should talk about. Those are his goals, those are his objectives. How do we plan around them?
Okay. Let's make a couple of assumptions. We've quantified a figure for our purposes right here, $4,000 a month of continued income. We know we have several sources where that will be supplied in the immediate and long-range future, most important of which is your continued practice up front. How much is that Navy pension that we referred to?
About $4,000 a year.
Okay. Is that indexed to inflation at all? Or is it a fixed?
No, I think it is indexed.
Okay.
Is it taxable by any chance?
Yes, it is. That's after taxes.
Fine.
What is your feeling, George, on a long-term inflation rate assumption where you need it in a position to have to make an assumption? Do you feel the long-range inflation will average 1, 2, 10%?
Oh, I wouldn't be at all surprised if interest rates now, where people are comfortable paying 13% to purchase an automobile, I would say they're now conditioned to paying a high interest rate. I think inflation will keep on going.
At about what rate if we needed to make an assumption?
Let us say the present rate now, you will have to make an assumption.
Okay, there's some difficulty in pegging that present rate.
Depends who you read. But
Depends
from-
I
We're the
guess
financial planners.
what Donnie's trying to get at, if it's costing you or if we're identifying a $4,000 need today for retirement purposes, 10, 12 years from today, based on a 6% inflation factor, it's going to be $8,000. Another 10 years from that, it'll be $16,000.
Right.
So you could see the geometric effect that occurs here, and that's where inflation hurts the most.
Of course.
Besides the need for continued dollars, is there anyone dependent on you at this point for income, whether it be
Just my wife.
parents or children?
No, just my wife and I.
Okay.
Two other things. The life insurance that you own, what type of policy is it?
Most of it's ordinary life.
Okay.
I take it back. About half of it's ordinary life. The other half is an endowment policy.
Do you have
At age
cash
65.
value or savings built into it now? And do you know the approximate value of it?
Yes, as a matter of fact, I do. It's about $60,000 cash value. Right
That's what's
now,
sitting in
today.
there right now.
Yeah, that's it. Right now.
Are there any loans against that?
No, this is after loans. I have a $5,000 loan, but that's
Is it owned through the through your business, or is it personal?
personal.
Personally owned.
Yeah.
Do you have wills, George?
Oh, sure.
Were they made in the state of New Jersey?
Yes, correct.
Fine. Are they simple wills? By that I mean, A goes to B, B goes to common disaster to the kids.
Exactly.
There are no trust
No.
setups at all?
Not at all.
Okay. I'd like to get into a potential solution, if time permits. How we would approach it, how would we approach your problems generally without knowing much more than we have done over the last 10, 15 minutes. Your immediate concern or present concern is your tax situation. Any individual that has approximately 30% of their gross incomes going out, why not, if you could save a bit of that and put it in your pocket, how do we do it conservatively, based on your nature, putting more dollars in your pocket and hopefully augmenting the potential retirement? I think the best way to look at it is with your KEO program. A very interesting thing happened in 1982. It was called TEFRA, Tax Equity Fiscal Responsibility Act of 1982. What TEFRA did and what it means to you simply is, at one time, pension plans were a heck of a lot more attractive than KEO plans. So a lot of people went out to incorporate. Over the last year, incorporation is not maybe as viable anymore.
I realize that.
Beginning in 1983, we can now put away $30,000. I'm sorry, 1984, we can put away $30,000 in your KEO program, which will substantially reduce your taxes accordingly. What we would like to investigate is a thing called a defined benefit KEO. What that simply means to you, George, is you could put away approximately 70% of your salary.
Paul, we're going to, we've just hit the end of the second segment
just
now.
getting to the best part.
I'm catching you right in the middle, right at the best part. We'll be back in with you next week, and we'll have Paul Zoch and Don Zoch talking again to our anonymous guest, George. Both are professional planners. They now have collected data about George and his status. And in the next segment, next week, we'll really offer firm conclusions about how George should shape his financial life. Good night. We'll see you next week.